but we're not sure. All right, so here you can see the envoy system. I haven't talked about this much because I didn't do a lot with it, but basically you, I think it's, I can't remember if they were civics techs or regular techs, but as you tech for certain things, you get access to more envoys. As you send envoys, as you get increased levels of envoys in a city, you gain better bonuses from them. So, and the top tier bonuses, they have a 1 envoy, a 2 envoy, a 3 envoy, and a 4 envoy. And I believe that some of these are competitive in the sense that I think once one civ gets it, you can't have two civs getting all the bonuses from a city state, basically. So, city states were annoying with their units. Their units were in my borders at like turn 5 in a different game. I'll show you guys later. The scout's a one-time thing. I'm not sure if that's true. Actually, I don't even think that is true, because the way the scout works, and this is the confirmation I got from the devs, when the scout returns home to the camp, when he gets adjacent to the camp, he spawns a unit, and then the scout goes out looking again. So I actually believe it's a one-time thing in terms of it generates 1 unit once. Now, the barb camp is always going to attack you, because that's what barbs do in these games, but I don't think that the scout having found you once means the barb camp is on permanent increased spawning rate. At least that was not implied to me. A bar under the leaders. I don't know. And again, I'm not too worried about it. I find it kind of amusing how wrecked I was getting by barbarians for someone with as much experience in Civilization 5 as I have, and with literally a guide on how to deal with barbarians. I was amused at how wrecked I was getting by barbs. I'm not concerned about balance-wise in the long term. This is such an easy fix if it is a problem, if it's unintended, for example. I'm not at all worried about the implications to the game, but it was comical for me. So if you look, guys, Kilimanjaro is like 2 tiles away from Brazil's capital. Can you trade tech this time around? I haven't seen anything saying that you could trade tech, but I didn't spend a lot of time with the diplomacy system. This was my first one of these I'd gone to in terms of it. I think if I went to another one, I would go in with some goals that I wanted met. Like this one was kind of, I wasn't exactly sure how the structure of the event was going to look like, and I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to get out of the event besides gameplay footage, and I kind of just went with what I felt like doing in the moment of kind of how it went. But I think I would go in if I did it again with some kind of concrete goals of what I wanted to see happen. Am I showing the Aztec game later? I don't know. I would have to do some editing of that footage before I could just live stream it like this. I went through this one with a bit of a fine-tooth comb to make sure that there was no problematic stuff. Because there's the biggest problem with me live streaming any of this is the religious system is still under NDA, so I can't talk about any of the religious stuff, and I can't show like picking pantheons or picking religious beliefs. So when that's lifted, maybe, but I think that won't be lifted until maybe if we're lucky. Yep, builders have 3 uses, 4 uses as China. Barbs just spawned another friggin' barbarian. They're like pushing me back now. They basically have control. They now have control of their side of the river because I stopped building military units briefly to build a settler, and then their barb archers ran down my slingers and killed my slingers. So the other thing is attachment. Unit attachments were a little bit weird to me. So what you can do is non-combat units. Even some combat units have specific bonuses. Like there's a battering ram, and a battering ram basically is if you have melee units within a certain radius of the battering ram, the melee units don't have a penalty when attacking cities. The settler can be attached to units, and I thought that would be kind of cool because one of the problems you have, particularly in multiplayer, but I can imagine this in single player, is let's say your settler goes one direction and your escorting unit goes another direction. They don't always end up going to the same location at the same time, and attaching them together makes it basically one unit that moves as one unit. The problem is it takes a full turn for both units to attach, and that's a little bit awkward. It means that a lot of times you still get the bonuses if you're near them, and they don't need to be attached to give the bonus. So unless there are actual bonuses for attaching as opposed to being near a unit that can be attached, I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time attaching units. It just takes too long to do it. It's too clunky getting a unit attached to it. So I kind of screwed myself a little bit with the settler because there's no actual advantage that I know of to have the settler actually attached to a military unit except they move together, right? And I can just move them independently and still move them together even though if I move them independently. So
A magnanimous dispensation.
holy shit. Elysium just donated $500. It's the single largest donation I've ever got in my life, man. So thank you very much for that. I'm glad you're enjoying the Civ 6 content, and I can't wait to be streaming Civ 6 for you guys. So keep tuned. Holy shit, man. That donation is ridiculous. Any resub for the 14th month in a row. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. And let's I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, but you can see the huge, well, you probably can't see the huge shit-eating grin I have on my face right now because I'm not showing camera, but I have a huge shit-eating grin on my face. So thanks for the donation, man. All right. Yeah, seems other people besides me are a little bit excited about Civ 6 too. Tell Frig? Yeah, of course I will. Alright, so this is what we have here is because I have the settlers selected. This is the area in which I can settle. I don't know what the gray represents. The red represents area that I can't settle. The green represents areas I can settle. I don't know why some of it's gray, maybe just fog of war. Your shirt is bouncing with happiness beneath the... Yeah, like, I didn't even realize that, like, on the stream. Yeah, because even though it's full screening, I'd have to edit this. I mean, I could edit this. Nah, I'm not going to bother, though. So. You're just hoping to sidetrack Elysium? Well, if you want to sidetrack, let me know. But thanks for the donation. Alright. So, my goal is to get a settler east. And I have quite a large amount. I mean, if you look at Civ 5 standards, I have quite a large amount of army. Green is next to rivers? Maybe. Any new terrain types? So I wondered about that a little bit. So one of the things I didn't get a chance to confirm is what happens with wooded hills or jungle hills. In Civilization 5, wooded hills and jungle hills require 3 movement points to enter, which is not such a big deal because, you know, yeah, it's going to take the bulk of your unit's movements, but if you have 1 movement point left, you can still enter them in Civilization 5. Civilization 6, you can't, right? So are wooded hills still 3 terrain movement? Does that mean essentially a wooded hill is a permanent barrier against anything that has less than 3 movements? Does that mean only scouts and horse units are going to be able to enter wooded hills? And what about builders? Builders only have 2 movement points. So there'd be, if it's 3 movement points to get into a wooded hill, a builder is not going to actually be able to enter a wooded hill. But I don't know. I don't have confirmation on that either way, and I didn't find a wooded hill that I actually checked during the playthrough. So. I can't talk about religion at all, Ice Gorsh. Ask me again when the NDA is lifted. More barbarians spawning. An absolute shit ton of barbarian horsemen. Once every 2 turns. The NDA for other stuff has been lifted already. I don't know when the religion one will be lifted, if it's lifted, but I've received no confirmation about that. I can't reveal the pantheons. I signed an agreement. I think the game is good so far. I had fun with it, but it's up my alley, right? This is the next Civilization. I'm going to play it until I decide if I don't like it or do like it. I don't really have enough, honestly, enough time to tell you. I played for 4 hours. I played the starts basically 3 times in a row. Checked out a lot of the systems. I was there for a lot of information gathering. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't even know really how to decide that to begin with. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I hope it has good balance issues as the game progresses, and I hope the mid to late game is a lot of fun, but I have no idea if it's good or not yet. Well, I asked for confirmation, Mr. Fyrick. I asked for confirmation from my 2K Games contact yesterday, and they just sent me another, I wanted clarification about Pantheons in particular, and they just sent me another copy of the NDA, so my assumption was that meant no. What do I think of the art style? It is cartoony, but I think one of the things about cartoony, I mean, I was talking about this when they first released the graphics for this at all, right? Is that in my opinion, cartoony art styles aren't a bad thing. And in particular, I'm thinking about Warcraft 3 from Blizzard, and then probably to a lesser degree WoW from Blizzard, right? And one of the things that cartoony, as long as it's not too ridiculously cartoony, graphic styles do any really highly stylized graphics system, like for example Darkest Dungeon 2, it's going to survive aging rather well, right? As the game gets older and the graphics get better, they're not going to be able to older games aren't going to be able to compete with the newer games in terms of just like quality of graphics. But if you're doing a highly stylized art form, like a cartoony art form, as your game ages, it's not going to look as bad. So I don't know. It's definitely different than Civ 5 is going to take getting used to. For me, the clarity right now seems much different for Civ 5 versus Civ 6. This, especially the hills and stuff like this, it feels very kind of mushed and blended together, and I'm not seeing it as distinct as it is. But I have 5,500 hours or something in Civilization 5, which means that my brain is really good at processing how that looks compared to how this looks. This is very new terrain to me. So I don't really have a strong opinion on that one way or the other quite yet. And honestly, these graphics are good enough for me that I don't really care. Like the graphics, if they're good enough and the gameplay is really good, I'm going to play the game anyways. If the graphics are so bad I can't stomach them, I'm not going to play the game whatsoever, and they're not as bad as that either way. So I don't know. And finally, it isn't done yet, right? So I was reading somewhere that the Civ 5 graphics got a really big overhaul prior to release, and it was quite close to release. Is that going to happen for Civ 6? Is this kind of placeholder graphics, some of them? I don't know. So can't really answer that. Not entirely sure yet. Thank you very much for the resub, Turnkey. Much appreciated with that. I'll keep going. Am I getting a little bit bothered by the coffee stain? I had a hard time differentiating between explored terrain that I had already explored and now has Fog of War, and unexplored terrain was a little bit painful for me because the coloring is so similar, and in Civ 5 the coloring is vastly different, right? You have Fog of War being white and basically unexplored I think being black, so that contrast was much stronger for me. I had a harder time with this, but again, my brain is so used to one system that it's tough to say, is that a challenging contrast or is that just what I'm used to? Did they say anything about possibly modded multiplayer? They did actually talk a little bit about that. They said that they have designed the modding system to be easier to use and easier to mod. So at least, and if you think about it, look at that civic system, right? So I talk a lot about this in my other video, but we're going to probably do a little bit of overlap here, which is that the civic system in of itself is inherently easily moddable, right? Because it has like 15 or 20 in the early game alone, different cards that you could slot in, you can easily adjust the values for modding or for just balance related stuff. You can easily adjust the values on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those cards without changing the overall game balance as a whole while still fine-tuning that. So I think just from a balance perspective, which for me in the multiplayer side of things is really what I'm interested in, right? I want a balanced early game, balanced mid game, a balanced late game. I want a balanced game as a whole. I think that modding is going to have a very easy time, at least partially at that, especially if the tools are being provided to actually interact with the systems themselves. So I'm positive about that side of things. I'm pretty pleased about that. Yeah, well, import Kira. I stream for a living, right? So I get used to making gestures on stream to talk to you guys. So yes, I'll be waving my hands around right now, even though you're only getting the very, very tiny portion of the bottom of my screen right now. How many turns each game were you given? I was given 4 hours total, up to turn 150 if I wanted to, but I never got anywhere close to turn 150 with 3 games. So I'm still freaking losing to this barb camp. You see, I'm trying to get a settler over. I want to settle on that copper so I can both have the resources over there and see what settling on a tile does. And I'm trying to escort a settler over there, but just the sheer number of barbarians over here is crushing me. This is full screen. It's just I need to edit the... I mean, I could edit it out if it's bothering you. Is it bothering you guys? I thought you guys were kind of amused by it. Look, we can fix that, but... It's not quite there. You'll see what Filthy's white t-shirt again today. Don't take out the shark. Oh man, chat. Gotta coordinate your complaints, one or the other. And if you guys notice, I mean, all I built this game, I think I built a granary, and I think I built one settler, and I think and one builder, I think. And other than that, I'm pretty sure I've only built military this game. Why are we doing only Civ 6 today? I don't know yet, Gregory. I probably don't have enough content for only Civ 6 today, but we'll see. Depends what you guys want. I mean, I can, well, I was planning on releasing probably 2 more Civ 6 videos. We'll see how they do on YouTube. I had 2 more kind of concepts I wanted to cover. And you guys probably noticed. I don't know. I don't know what the other streamers are releasing. But for me, my thought process on this was it's probably going to be, you know, the number of events they did worldwide with this and the number of players who have access to this footage. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than 100 people, maybe even 150 people who had access to this game over the last couple of weeks as they did their kind of tour for this. And probably half of those maybe are YouTubers versus half of them being publishing companies, etc. I think there's going to be a lot of just pure gameplay footage on stream, and there's probably going to, or on YouTube, and there's probably going to be a lot of pure gameplay footage into areas that I didn't even get to in these. But I wanted to kind of take a different approach. I wanted to talk to you guys about what I thought the implications of this was going to be and how this is going to actually translate into a game that we're going to be playing. Not so much, oh, what tech do I get, hotels or something, but more along the lines of what do these mechanics mean for the impact of the game. So that was kind of the approach I've taken. So I probably won't have some of the footage that other players will have of the end game stuff anyways. Green is food, hammer is production, and yellow is gold. Yes. So coast tiles are 1 food and 1 gold. Yes, they are. Actually, I think that's reminiscent of Gods and Kings, right? Well, that's my take on it, 69ing as well. That for me. That's the information that I want to hear. I don't really care what the pre-release balance of crossbows are. I just want to know how the core game mechanics work. How did districts and yields work? This was a really interesting one that I probably won't be talking about too much in videos because I don't have a lot of footage to support it. But basically, it works like this. So your cities are going to be more specialized in Civilization 6 than they are in Civilization 5. At least that's the intent behind the game design for this. Because you're not so much your buildings, but your districts. Districts are almost like buildings, right? You build a district in a certain portion of your actual terrain on your map. They often have requirements, just like wonders do, for being placed next to certain things. Maybe they have to be adjacent to a river. There were wonders that had to be built on a hill, like the Oracle. There were bonuses that were, some wonders had to be built next to stone, and I think districts are gonna have similar styles of restrictions on some of them, and some of them are gonna have adjacency bonuses based on where the district is. So though you might be able to build it somewhere, you're not going to want to build it somewhere unless it has those bonuses. The districts are gonna kind of specialize your city in terms of what it does. Your cities not all cities are gonna be able to build all districts, and because of the space limitations, a lot of them had adjacency restrictions too, like they can't be next to such and such. You're only going to be able to build a few of these per city in all likelihood. And this is going to specialize how your city acts, what it produces, what types of yields it's producing. Is it producing great people yields? Is it producing science yields? Is it producing military production? What is it actually doing? And combine that with the fact now that great people are global, so it's great people for your empire as opposed to per city. So you can have a city that specializes on getting you great engineering points from a district that does that, or whatever the hell the equivalent is, right? And another one that gets you great profit points generating off of that, and one of them that gets you scientist points. And you're going to be building an empire as a whole that gets you the stuff you need, but every individual city is going to be less of a generalist in Civ 5 and more of a specialist. So hopefully that will be pretty good. Yeah. So, and there's the civs. There's special bonus. There's special districts for certain civs. There's bonuses towards districts. Districts are going to be another thing that you make decisions about in your city. And the more decisions we have to make as a player, the meaningful, impactful decisions that you can compete with, the more interesting I find the game. The more diversity you have between one player and another. Do I think Civ 6 will be multiplayer be as competitive as Civ 5? I mean, there's no way I can answer that. I mean, right? Like, I haven't played Civ 6 multiplayer yet. My thoughts on the early game systems, at least the potential implications of the early game systems, are there's going to be more opportunity for diverse strategies in the early game. If the card system is handled well, and I mean, from what I've seen, the early game at least seemed decent enough that there will be some options in the early game that weren't there before. And the emphasis on extra units, the increase in gold, the more active barbarians, slower scouting, which means you need more units to scout the same amount of distance. If anything, the early game should be even more interactive than it was. And considering I think the best part of Civilization 5 right now is the early game, improving on the early game again seems like a pretty cool thing, right? That means it's going to be a pretty damn fun early game. At least I hope. So I don't know until I play it, but those are kind of at least from the mechanics there, those are potentially the systems the systems can play out that way, at least potentially. Are there any wonders that have to be, any districts that have to be on snow? I don't know, man. I'd have done well.
Well-educated workforce.
I've kind of talked a couple times about there are no borders in the early game. You can move through other players' borders with no penalties to yourself. You don't have to declare war to do it. The upside of that is for scouting. The downside is not enemy, but city-states have been moving units into my borders and blocking workers at some point. I feel like Civ 6 is more or less complex than Civ 5. I think it's more flexible. Whether or not the complexity works out one way or the other, I don't know yet. But certainly the flexibility in the early game suggests that there might be more complex in terms of the options in the early game. You guys ready for this? Ready to lose a settler to barbarians? Because I'm pretty impressed with myself here. Is there a wonder that requires flatland desert pearls? Maybe as I get to know the company a little bit better, they can build me a wonder that does exactly that. They can call it the Tower of Salt, and it will be based, you have to have a flat desert with pearls and only pearls. I think 2 population settlers is going to be interesting anyways if you can escort it, because right now population, your city continues to grow as you build settlers. So now, early game anyways, and this is probably why the AI has cities out and I don't, before the barbs get really ridiculous where you can maybe escort with 1 or 2 units, maybe getting a settler down before barbarians are such a big problem might have been one of the solutions to this game. What's the little 1 next to the warriors? I don't see it right now. Can you be more specific when you're talking about? Can you rename cities? Didn't check, probably. Oh, Draculinus, I guess. First time I play the game after release, I'll get that start, undoubtedly. Oh, promotions. Yep, that's probably what that is. The level they're at, basically. They probably start at level 0 and level up. I don't think it's the number of unassigned promotions, although it might be, but I think it's probably the level they're at. So, this turn, as I said, I find it extremely amusing the amount of trouble I have with barbarians in this as such an experienced player. But anyways, so the plan here was simple. I don't want that barbarian that's right. I don't want my guy with the settler staying on that tile, because the guy can attack me across a river, and potentially the camp could spawn something and attack me. Although I don't think it can move and attack on the same turn, but that was my thought process at the moment. So what I'm trying to do is weaken the horsemen, bait them into attacking the warrior that just attacked right then, and then try to get my settler in guy to take the low hit point barbarian out and move on to that tile. So it's protected from the warrior across the river. Which goes reasonably well. Now, remember anything about map generation or map options? There weren't. The only map option I was given was the difference between continents and Pangea. And I started. They said something like Pangea will have a less disruptive diplomatic thing to be, or not Pangea. The continents would have less diplomacy to deal with. And I started, I think, 1 on one and 2 on the other. I think I did 1 continents and 2 Pangea. Didn't really notice much of a difference in the amount of turns I played. Can I talk about the increase to costs in science by settling more cities? I can't. I didn't take any look at that. It seems like a minutia that will be relevant once I start playing the game, but for the first look probably isn't too relevant. What are my initial impression on the optimal number of cities to settle? I think I only settled 1 city out of 3 games. I captured something like 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 cities. And I didn't play any game past medieval. What was my initial impressions on the... Hold on a minute, let me just finish that question. Chat scrolling real quick. What was the initial impression of the optimal number of cities? I already said that. Is it similar to how standard 4 cities... See, I think making comparisons between social policies in Civilization 5 in terms of the optimal social policy in city combinations in Civ 5 is going to be totally different in Civ 6. The entire point of the early game changes in the system make it so that type of comparison is kind of meaningless. How does tradition compare to the tradition in Civ 6? Well, there isn't tradition in Civ 6. It's whatever you want to put your government choices into. Now, it may turn out that there's such a finite number of options, and those options aren't well balanced, that there is going to be predictable changes like that. But I haven't played enough to get that locked down yet. So. Is there natural border growth? Yes. The game tells me off for losing my settler to barbarians as I get wrecked on Prince. Like, probably one of the most experienced Civ 5 players in the world, losing settlers to barbarians on Prince in Civ 6. I thought you guys might enjoy watching that with me. No, I'm not playing this live. This is recorded. Man, there's a barbarian guide that someone made out there. Maybe I should review that. I know, Matter. I know, right? Alright. So, my plan still is, in this game at least, I wanted to try... This was my last game of the day, and this was kind of probably coming down to the last 15 or 20 minutes of the Civ 6 experience. So what I wanted to do was actually at least get a settlement down. I wanted to settle on that luxury and see what happened, but yeah. $500 donation charge back. Yeah. I did think about maybe I shouldn't stream this, but I'm like, no. They'll probably enjoy the experience. Everyone enjoys my salt levels. Or enjoys... Some of the most popular games on YouTube have been games where I'm getting just shit on by either other players or the environment or barbarians or something. Players really tend to enjoy that. So, or other players tend to enjoy watching that, apparently. So, are there overpowered luxuries like salt in Civ 5? I got 2 sets of calendar resources in my starts, and then Tundra Salt. So those didn't seem particularly overpowered to me. I bet you Salt remains a strong resource. How strong, I don't know yet. That's right. Now if you beat Prince, you can say you're better than Filthy. As I said, probably this barbarian camp is out of control, but possibly you just need a shit ton more units than I had early game. But I mean, I was never able to push in to actually clear that camp.
It does not bring you happiness. Will at least help you be miserable.
I was just never able to get enough units across this river. Rivers are an absolute nightmare at the moment, by the way, in terms of moving around. But I was never actually able to get enough units across this this river to threaten the barbarian camp in any meaningful way, which is hilarious. And I don't even know what you're gonna do. Well, anyways, if you get, like, imagine if you had 2 of those barb camps too, the ones with horses, and they were spawning into you. Like, I mean, how many barbarians is it up to by now? 8, maybe? 9? This is not Raging Barbs. And interesting too. I mean, I had this thought when I was playing it, and also when I was making some videos, but I don't think I commented on this. So the other thing about not being able to use insta heals in the early game, you tend to want to save your promotion, well, not like hold on to them, save them, but you tend to want to use promotions to promote rough terrain or open terrain. You want to get levels on your units, right? If they're going to have any longevity. Now the exception is when you're getting heavily pressured by barbs. Oftentimes, you just use an insta-heal to kind of survive and move past that location, right? If you have to walk by a barb camp and it spawns a unit on you and maybe has an archer in the camp, the archer shoots you, the unit attacks into you, your guy's getting pretty low on health. Probably the amount of experience that it takes to get your guys so low on health gives them enough experience for an insta-heal. You insta-heal and move on, and then get past the area of dense barbarians and move on with whatever you're trying to do. The way the mechanics work in this game with the promotions taking your entire turn, you can't ever do that. So if you do get a promotion, and the promotion can heal you, you have to heal in the same position that you are being attacked in before, which means it's really difficult to keep units at peak efficiency in that area. So they're either moving away to get to a position where they can heal without getting beat up and assign their promotion, or they're shooting or attacking or fortifying in the position that they're at. So I mean, it's kind of a small indirect nerf, and honestly, the other games, the barbarians were nothing like this. This game was just kind of hilarious barbarians. Actually, on my hard drive, I had this same saved as China barbarians, right, or China barbs or something like that. But it is interesting to think that that probably actually weakens your initial plays like that. How do I like the tech tree? I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, honestly, Chris VM, for the kind of reasons we've discussed already. I wanted to experience the mechanics of the game. Do you guys see me rushing a wonder over there as China? So for me, it was a 15% bonus, at least right now as it stands in the game. 15% production towards Oracle over there. Yes. No, full movement, Bing Bong.
Divide and rule, a sound motto. Unite and lead, a better one.
I found all of my starts to be low hammers, actually, Molten. I don't know if the map script did, if that was just coincident. With an N of 3, it's probably not a very good, especially with one of them being a Snow Tundra start, it's probably not very conducive to making any definitive conclusions about that. But all of my starts seem to be relatively low on hammers. So, don't know. I used a builder charge as China. It's their special ability. What's the improvement on the wheat doing? I don't know. I assume it's improving the wheat. Can you war a civ and stop them building a wonder by pillaging, attacking a tile it's being built on? It's an interesting question. I have no idea. I think that worker, I think I let that worker get captured because I'm like 5 minutes away from the end of this video or something and talking to some devs in real time as this is happening. And I don't think it stopped the wonder production. So does standing on the tile the wonder's being built on stop the wonder from being built? I guess I would have to guess no, but I don't know for sure. There were some issues with updating Aqua. When I first improved tiles, it didn't always upgrade it. It didn't always upgrade the yield icons. I played around with that in one of the other games to look to see if it was a visual bug or not, and I think it was visual in the end. It's an amenity. It's basically the old Civ 5 luxury. You need amenities to keep your empire happy, and there's negative bonuses if you don't have enough, and positive bonuses if you have extra. And you trade amenities with AI. Sounds very much like a luxury to me. Wonders now get built on tiles, correct. Is yield calculated differently than Civ 5? Not that I could tell, but I don't know about when a population grows. The delay in the yield updates. Oh shit! I just moved way back from what I wanted to do. Fuck. I was trying to hit pause and missed. The yield updates were such that it was a little bit painful trying to calculate it in real time versus what I did. So, can you move through tiles that built a wonder? Yes, you can stand on them. You can move through them. Okay, not a whole lot more happens in this. I think we will probably, maybe we would. I did want to actually. I want to found this city for you guys. So I don't remember if I found on Salt or not. Maybe we could actually see together, but I don't think I checked the amenities afterwards. Welcome back to Lendl.
Returned.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what happens if a scout is adjacent to a barb camp and you settle a city, and then therefore the scout is close enough that it sees your central district? Does that just mean it spawns a barb every single turn because it's doing its little, C district, go back to camp, C district, go back to camp? We're gonna find out. Well, not this game we're gonna find out, but in general I suppose we'll find out. How far from the city can you build districts or wonders? They take, it's just 3, just like your normal workable tiles are. I think settling took my entire turn as well, but I'm not entirely sure. Can't remember. Can you see resource at the top? Yes, you can. Good call. I didn't settle on it, looks like. The barbed wire is still going? Oh, yeah, man. Perhaps the other one that would be worth. Okay, so what we'll probably do after this, we'll probably go do the you guys know when the Firaxis stream is for religion? And you already said some other streamer has fucked up and showed the Pantheon on stream. Maybe we could do the Aztec game. See, the Aztec game was a game of conquest, and there's some other systems that get involved in there. Graphics do take getting used to. I agree 100% on that. You guys can see the attach icon on the settler when I clicked on it. It looks like the little staple at the top, or chain, I guess. It's like 5 hours from now. Okay. Yeah, awkward. Cool revealed pantheons. I found a religion in that game though. I'd have to skip that, and I don't know exactly where it is. Maybe we could pay attention to the timing. I think I found a religion through Stonehenge, so it'd be nice to not do that. Alright, so you guys kind of get the impression of this one. This one is basically me losing an entire game to a single barb camp that spawns unlimited horses and horse archers on me, which had prompted a lot of questions for me about barb stuff and generally. So, all right, let's take a look at the Aztec game. I think would probably be the next.